Let me make a post here quickly in the group because there are a lot of people that wanted to join. So we're live on YouTube. All right. All right. So if you guys want to join in, you should be able to see everything on YouTube. All right. I shared the YouTube video in the meetup group. So if you go into the meetup and you go into Claude, into the group, you'll see it in the comments. All right, let me then start. I've started recording and now just fixing everything up here. Then I'll share my screen and then we could start. Sorry for the delay. All right, let me know if everyone can see my screen. Everything's good.
Yeah, we can see everything.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Sorry about last time. I had to push it back a couple of weeks because I had an appointment that came up. But thanks everyone for joining today. I'll just kick it off and get right in. So today we're just going to be taking a look at Claude Code, and I don't know where you guys are in your Claude Anthropic journey, but I'll try to keep it basic to mid-level so I could pick everyone up so everyone has a basic to understand what Claude Code is and how to go about getting work done in Claude Code. So this session is going to go on for about 90 minutes. If you have questions, you can raise your hand or just write in the chat and I'll try to get to your questions as quick as possible. And right now, as you can see, the whole presentation, everything that I'll be doing will be in the Claude desktop app. And as I said, we're just going to look at Claude Code, see what it can do. And the goal for me today is just try to explain everything to you guys, what you can do with this application and how you can get work done. So a little bit about me. I'm Sean Boom. I'm the founder of Everyday AI. And what we do at Everyday AI is we help companies, small, medium-sized companies, to implement AI in their everyday work. And I always say we don't build AI, but we make AI work for you. And how we do this is through going analysis with the companies to understanding in what areas they want to implement AI in. So there's six different areas. You have content generation, you have automation, you have coding, data, as well as strategy. And we basically guide companies step by step with first trying to identify the specific use cases a company wants to do. Then we go into consulting and trying to figure out the tailored recommendation. And then we go into prototype, building out MVPs. And then we go into the last step, which would be scaling. So our journey today, as I said, is going to be about an hour to 90 minutes. We're just going to have a look at Claude Code in general. Then we're going to talk about the different way of trying to access Claude Code, how you get into it. Then we go into a little bit more detail looking at Claude MD and Claude and its memory. What's the difference there? Then my goal today is to also build an app live with you guys. I did little bit of preparation, so hopefully everything goes well. Could be that I run into a couple barriers, as well as look at some of the small things like, okay, what are MCPs? But we're working with AI, so AI could answer most of your questions for you. We look at how to access Claude then on the different services and the surfaces, and then we look at the Q&As. So I'd say like the Claude is not just a coding tool, and a lot of people say, okay, Claude Code is a Claude coding tool. You should just use it for coding. I'd say it's a new interface in how to interact with AI because AI has a specific orchestration. Claude now works with specific agents when it comes to doing data analysis or anything that you're trying to do. Claude could help you build out a website. It could help you make a prototype for a specific application, anything. Even if you just have a unique idea where you think, okay, I need a developer or I need some specialist to do that, you could just sit down inside first Claude Chat, brainstorm with it, and then jump into Claude Code and actually build it and execute it, right? There are different ways to access Claude. So you have this browser. Everyone can log into the browser and you have Claude there. You have the app on your phone as well. And this basically just gives you answers. You could upload documents and it could answer documents. But Claude Code is somewhat different. You could say it's more of an agentic. It reads and writes and edit files. So you could imagine you make a folder with PDFs, PowerPoint presentation, anything you want. What you do is you give access Claude Code to this specific folder that you have. And what Claude Code could do is first do an analysis and go in there and edit it, make a new presentation. For example, if you have a huge Word document or a PDF about markets, specific stocks that or your stock portfolio. It could do analysis for you and come up with a presentation or a pitch deck or anything like that. So this LLM actually has the ability to modify and change whatever it is that you're working with. As I said, there are different ways to access Claude Code. Right now, I'm in the Claude Desktop app, and this you can download on their website. And you also have the ability to access it in terminal. So every desktop, every laptop has a terminal. If you're a developer, you guys know what a terminal is. If you're someone who's not a developer, you don't really need to know what a terminal is. You could just get the app. And then you do have like IDEs such as Cursor, VS Code, JetBrains. You could also access a Claude Code there as also as well. So if you want to follow along, if you're watching and have your computer next to you, you could just go ahead and download the app, and then we could just go ahead and take it from there. So as I said, my job today, or what I want to do with you guys, is just build out a app. I have two sons, and I thought I'd have this great idea. Yeah, Claudio raised
Yeah,
his hand. Go ahead.
Sean, we're just asking if you can zoom in a bit. It's a bit small to read the text on the screen. Thanks.
Let me see. Unfortunately, I don't think I could zoom in anymore. Better? Like this?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks a lot.
All right. So today, as I said, my goal is to build out an app. I have two children, 7 and 10, and I thought I could just like build out like a AI app that can help them read. So it would like listen to them for 30 seconds to 10 minutes because my oldest son is learning to read and or he can read, but my youngest son is learning to read. And after listening to him, then the app would give him like gentle encouragement, tell him how to pronounce specific words. And that's what I thought I'd do today. I don't know, as I said, we only have 90 minutes, so I don't think I'm going to be able to finish the app, but I think I could give you guys just a little bit of guidance of how to go about setting up an application like that. And through our journey, I want to look at the different things. For example, what the Claude MD file is, what the planning mode is, and like just going through the different steps all together. So we're working on this together. So what we can do is we can just ask Claude what is the Claude MD file? Because as I said, I'm not here to just answer all of your questions. We're in this together. So when you're working with AI and if you have a question, you could always just ask AI. And I think that's the first thing I tell people, and it is a different mindset. It's like if you have a question, just go ahead and ask, right? And so here Claude tells me it's a special file that automatically reads and understands what the session is about. So here, this Claude MD file is basically, you think about it, somewhat kind of like the memory of Claude for it to understand what context it's working with. You have two different layers. At least it goes into more details about what it is, but these two different layers, you could classify it as a global layer and a project level layer. For example, the global layer would be how Claude should interact with you regarding specific rules when it comes to writing code. You could say, okay, you should make sure that the code shouldn't be over 300 lines of code, or how it should give you information when it comes to talking to you. You could say in this Claude MD files, be specific, always show me where the files are located, for example, if you're learning code whenever you're answering me. So this is global. These are global rules. You want to keep them high level. And then you have the second rule when it comes to the Claude MD file, you have the project level. And the project level is more focused on what exactly you want to accomplish in the project. So this would be, for example, sometimes when I'm building out an application, I have a backlog. This backlog would also probably be in the project level, so Claude could understand where we currently are with our tasks. So, what are skills? So Claude skills, it's basically you could consider it as a specific flow that Claude can use. These are different. You could say, for example, a skill would be calculator skill. So Claude would have this Python script that it would run, and it would be able to calculate specific thing. Or you could build out a skill. If you have a specific design schema that you have, you could build out a skill that says, yeah, design. And making a skill is pretty easy. If you have a specific workflow or a specific order of steps that AI should take, you could always create a skill. So you could say, how can I create a skill? And this is easy. Usually when you install the app, Claude has a specific file that it can help you. It's called Skill Creator. So all you have to do is open up the Skill Creator. You could put slash man skill creator, and here you can see the skill creator. And once you've opened up the skill creator, you just go and tell Claude, hey, I want you to create a PowerPoint skill. I want you to create a calculator skill. I want you to create a specific skill that does this and this and this step for me. And what the skill creator does, as you see it here, it says it gives you step-by-step instructions. So once you type skill creator, it's going to ask you a specific question. What should we name this skill? What are the specific steps about the skill? What should this skill achieve? Are there specific files where are these files located? So it will guide you through step by step when it comes to achieving your specific goal regarding the skill. There's also in Claude also a specific design skill. So these are slash commands that if you're using. And here, for example, you have design. And here in the UI interface, you can see that with every skill or every you could say slash command that I use, it kind of like guides you and helps you along to understand what exactly this actually does. For example, design consent. This is grants Claude access to my design in the project, or design consultation. This grants Claude, it consults me regarding specific design or setup and deploy or plan review. So these are slash commands that I'm using, and these are basically, as I said, specific packages of information that you're sending to the LLM and say, do these 20 steps without me always having to write these steps, or use this code that I'm doing so I don't always have to write and fill this out. Today we'll be also jumping into Claude Design when I'm starting to design the app. So I won't be using the design skill or any the design skill or anything like that. I'm just gonna show you guys the Claude Design app when it comes to designing it, because I don't really like the design skill that much. Here's another thing. You could say, okay, what are slash commands? As I said, slash commands basically helps you to understand, it gives you specific access to specific information or how you want the Claude code to behave. And there are a whole bunch of slash commands that you could either create yourself, but there are always slash commands that are already integrated with Claude. Some of these I've created, for example, agents, ask Claude to create a sub agent. Claude does this now automatically when it comes to the tasks that you're given. For example, you could say research this in the internet while you're researching this, build me the app. So what it will do, Claude will basically say, okay, I'm going to build a research agent that goes out in the internet and does this specific research. And while it's doing that, it builds out a different agent that has a task for you to build the app. So Claude now automatically does these things when it comes to you have auto plan, you have this is my brand voice generator. You have browse when it comes to using specific URL. So you have all these different types of skills. If you want to, you could also take the time. You could also ask Claude, what skills do you have access to? And it will give you a whole a huge list of different skills that you can use when it comes to you using Claude Code. I'm just going to talk and say, can you give me more information about Claude's project setup and how I should go about setting up a project? What I also recommend when it comes to using Claude Code is that it's easier to talk because you're able to give Claude quicker, more context. Sometimes whenever you're writing and you're thinking about something, you forget what it is that you want to say. So I always recommend either you use an app like there's Whisper. I think there's an app that's called Whisper, or in Claude itself, you have this microphone. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I use Whisper app, but I just wanted to show you guys that it's easier just to talk to the model and then it can give you information. So when it comes to the project setup, as I hear, you usually have a root directory. This is, for example, this is my readme read with me app. And here, as we talked about before, we have the Claude MD. And here would be the Claude commands, and then you have the app itself, and then you have a README file. A README file is just for people who want to understand what this application is about. So this is a general setup of how to go about setting up your application. You can always, as I said before, you could build with your own slash commands. So if you're the specific developer, you have specific templates. So you're using Pythons, you have specific snippets, you have a blueprint that you're always building out with. Don't be scared to just make that into your own slash command. There, for example, when you're testing, you have specific testing steps that Claude should always take. You could just go ahead and make that into your own slash command. So Claude is very flexible there. So you could go ahead and try that out. Okay, MCP server. So what an MCP server is, let me just clear this and see. So clear is another slash command. So if I go and clear, then everything is cleared. You can't really do this in Claude Chat. So you have a new interface that you can use. So it's the same thing you can do with a terminal. I can ask what is an MCP server? As I said, the large language model or Claude doesn't judge you if you ask questions, so ask as many questions as you want. I encourage people to do that. It also helps them to learn and to also understand how to use AI as best as possible. Um, give me a simple ex uh, explanation. And also, if you're making spelling mistakes, also doesn't judge you. It gives you, it just understands what it is that you're selling. And it doesn't matter what language you're speaking either. So it's basically, it says it's a plugin that gives Claude's new abilities. So let's say you have an application like, let's say Figma, or I don't know if you guys know Miro, or you have an application that you're always using, for example, a project management application. Here you'd give it something like an MCP server, or for example, to Excel, or anything like that. And what Claude basically does, it understands how it can interface with this application and what it can do, how it could read, how it could write, how it could get information from this application and give it to you on demand. For a lot of people, for example, they use Notion. Some people use Obsidian for wikis. Here you have the ability to use an MCP server, and Claude has always access for that information. For example, I'm someone that uses a wiki that's called Obsidian. I have an MCP server there, and that's basically the brain for when I'm building out a project. So whenever Claude starts up, it goes on the MCP, it uses the MCP server, connects to the wiki, understand what's in the wiki, and then it could do whatever it is that I wanted to do for that project. So at the end of the day, what you want to do, you want to give Claude, when talking to this model, you want to give it a goal. So it's not like you're building step by step and say, do this, do this, do that, do this. That's not a correct way to use Claude as a model. You should use it really where you give it an end state, what the end state is. And I would recommend, again, using your voice to do that. And what Claude would automatically do, which I also recommend people when it comes to using an application like this, also say be critical, ask me questions when it comes to what it is that I want to do and how it is that I want to set up my project. And once you've done that, then if Claude doesn't understand specific things, it will ask you questions and to get your project flowing. So in Claude, there's also a plugin ecosystem that you can always use. And these plugins are basically, you could say, more complex skills. For example, there's a plugin to Excel where Claude could automatically go to Excel. There's a plugin to Word where Claude could automatically go into Word and do whichever documents. There's a browser use plugin. So there's also from Anthropic themselves. They also have for browser use for Claude. So I could be using Claude Code and I say, hey, go on to LinkedIn, scrape this website from LinkedIn, and give me the information about this person. And you would see Claude opens up the browser on your laptop and goes onto LinkedIn, searches for that specific name, and then gives you the information that you needed. I'd recommend browser use, not to use it that much if you're on the Pro subscription because it consumes a lot of tokens. And tokens basically how much time you could use, how often you can use the AI. So when it comes to these more complicated plugins, I'd recommend not to use them that much because then you won't be able to interact with the AI as much. Or you could say, okay, I will do pay as you go, then you pay more money so you could continue using the large language model. So as I said it before, Claude as a system or as an application or as an LLM, whatever you want to call it, I'd say it's not just um, for coders. If you're using Claude Code, I think Claude Code could be used for marketing, could be used for sales, it could be used for any department you're coming from. I would say the Claude desktop app is a very, very flexible app. It's not just about coding. You could do website analysis, you could do document analysis, you could do market research on it. You could do so many different things when it comes to using this application. I'd say go ahead and try it out and see what it is you can do with it. As I say, they also have a lot of other interfaces when it comes to if you're using Cursor, Anti-Gravity, VS Code, Codex, or if you're just a normal guy that likes using the terminal, Claude is also available there to be used. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If you could just write in the chat, and then we can continue. Are there any questions? Let me double check. Okay, I think what needs to be addressed is the usage limitation cap. Um, right now, we're getting the impression that we're asking endless questions without limitation. I would say yes. What you can do here is try to double check what model it is that you're using. And for example, here, Opus is available, Fable is available. That's one of the strongest models. So you don't really need to use it that much. For your everyday model where you won't really reach your usage cap, I'd say recommend Sonnet. So go ahead and use it. So here, this is an interface where you could choose what model it is you want to use. I think I'm stopped sharing one second. I have to jump back and share my screen. Uh, sorry. So here you can see if you click here when it comes to the usage, here you have the ability to choose which model you want to use. You have the smallest model, which is Haiku, which you could say you could use it for very simple tasks, scheduling something that you want to do. So Claude Sonnet is your everyday lifter, so it's pretty good. I always use Sonnet most of the time. Opus is more like a heavy lifter. It thinks, it does a lot of deep thinking, reasoning also as well. Sonnet does reasoning as well. Most of these models does reasoning except Haiku, I think. And then Fable, this is a really, really very strong model regarding doing research, doing analysis, coming up with new formulas. So Fable is one of the newest model at Claude. And there, if you click on Fable, most definitely you'd be burning a lot of tokens. Let me go back into the chat again and see. Okay, what's the main difference with Claude and Lovable? Can I build on both? So yeah, Lovable is, I'd say with Claude, you're more flexible. Lovable, you're basically just connected to just one platform. And there on Lovable, you already ready to deploy. So for example, you are building your own, you're an entrepreneur and you're building your own website and you want to just deploy that quickly. I think Lovable is integrated with a Supabase and you could just deploy that as quickly as possible. With Lovable, as I said, it's specialized in building out websites and applications. With Claude, you can do many different things. Say you have a specific folder where, I don't know, basic thing like you're planning a trip with your family and you've done a lot of research and you've saved a lot of documents in a specific folder. What you can do is you could give Claude this folder that you have and do an analysis, tell Claude to do research about the different hotels online, find the best places to go, and what Claude would do, it will go into this folder, look at the information that you've got together, and come up with an itinerary plan for you to do. So that would be one basic difference. Lovable again, you have a lot of different models to choose from. With Claude, you're just basically locked in choosing from one of these models. Hopefully that answers your question. Are you going to cover what each model is recommended for? As I said, I covered it before. Haiku, very, very simple. Sonnet is your everyday lifter. You could use that whenever you want to. Opus is for really when you have a very, very big tasks with multiple steps. It can help you plan out there. And Fable, if you're doing genetic research or something like that, or you're researching how to, I don't know, infiltrate systems or doing server side, whatever else, my migrations when it comes to enterprise migrations or things like that, doing specific steps, planning out huge migrations, I'd say something like Fable would come into question. So those would be the things. But for everyday things, I think Sonnet is fine. And once you choose the model, you could choose how fast, how much effort it should go in. So you could say, yeah, go into super fast ultra code, or you could say, okay, just go into medium thinking. I don't need you to be thinking that much. And the faster you get, the ultra code you go into, the more tokens you'll definitely be burning. So I think like medium, most of the time with medium, you're fine. If you want faster, then you'll get a faster response. But I find like whenever you're on low or something, you get more generic response. If you go on something like high, the responses aren't that generic. So most of the time, I think medium is fine. All right. Recommended for da 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 da. Okay, done. All right. So what I'm going to do is then I'm going to jump into just the interface. So I'm going to clear the here. Okay, in with the interface, we have three different modes. I always recommend going into planning mode. So planning mode is just a mode in which you're able to make a plan. So I could say, before I do that, I'm probably just going to jump into the app that I want to create. So what I'm going to do is open a new chat. Once you open a new chat, it looks like this. And then I'm going to click here and open the folder. Once I open the folder, I go here, I find the application. For example, as I said, here you have the ability, if you're doing research and you have a specific folder that you're using, you're able to basically find that folder and give it to Claude, and Claude will have that information. So as I said, I'm going to build out an app, and I'm going to click OK. And now Claude has access. So it's local, it's on my machine. Claude has access to my folder. I'm going to type here what is in the claude.md file. What is in ClaudeMD? And then what Claude is going to do is it's going to go into the ClaudeMD file. We could have a look and see what the ClaudeMD file looks like. Let me close this. Sorry, here. Here you have the ability to go into files. Let me close this here. And so looking at the Claude MD file here you can see what exactly it's about. So this Claude MD file I created earlier, and here you can see it's about creating the app. It's giving, okay, what this app should be doing. It's giving the structure of how this application should be built out. And this is something that Claude could start with, right? So Claude has the basic information about what this application should do and how it should be going about this application. So it doesn't really have anything much more about it. But if you are starting, you don't have a Claude MD file in your directory or folder that you're using, what you could most definitely do, it's called Claude init. So you see this thing here. This, you could say this Claude init, what init does is that it initiates what's in your root directory. So that would be the first step that you would take when it comes to, for example, as I said, you have a folder with all the different files from planning your vacation. Um, you'd want to first go into that folder, you give Claude access to it as I did before, and then you just do init. And once you have init, what Claude does, it goes in and it looks at all these different files. You could also say init, please do analysis, and you tell Claude what it is that you want to do. You could give Claude also a goal. And what it does, it goes in and looks at all these files and understand the file structure, if it's a PDF, if it's CSV, if it's any type of document, and it reads all these documents, and then it saves the information to its memory. And what it also does, it creates a Claude.md file for you. And then with that Claude.md file, you're able to just start your project. So that's how you'd go about regarding, okay, you set up a folder, you don't have a Claude.md file in that folder, you just do init, /init, and then Claude will just run through it, understand what's in the folder, create a Claude.md file, and you're able also to go in the CloudMD file, read it, and go through it and see what types of information is there. All right. Can you show us how to build an app project you're talking about? Yes, I will get into that. What is the main draw? Plus with Claude. Oh, okay. I think it's a matter of preference. If you want to use ChatGPT or Claude, I think the difference from my analysis, there's not a huge big difference. It's a matter of taste. So if you want to use ChatGPT with Codex, you could go ahead and use Codex and GPT. If you want to use Claude, you could go ahead and use it also. I think ChatGPT is a little bit cheaper, for example, if you're using Codex, but I think they also did something with their prices. So if you want to use Codex, you could go ahead and doing it. All right, so this says when reach the limit of context window, how can I continue editing? So Claude here has a compaction. So when there's no, I'd say there's today using the Claude app, there's no really context window limit. So what happens is Claude automatically compact, and compacts mean that whatever you're writing, and when it reaches your context window limit, it compacts everything and summarizes everything. So later you could just continue doing it. So you could just do you could just do a slash command when you think your context window is being reached, and you click here, compact. And what it does an automatically summarization of whatever it is that you're working on, saying you're working on a bug or something like that, and it automatically just compacts it, and you have that information. You could just continue working on the project that you're working on. So you don't really have to worry that much anymore about context window. Claude automatically compacts when this little wheel here gets full. It compacts it, and then, or you can compact it by yourself. If I think Claude is better than Cursor, as I said, it's a matter of taste. I think Cursor, one thing Cursor is, just for you guys who don't know what Cursor is, if you're a developer, Cursor is an IDE. And an IDE is, I think it's an initial developer environment or something like that. And what it does is just for developers to write code in. And what Cursor is doing now, from my understanding, is that one Cursor has you have a lot of different access to a lot of different models. So if you want to use a cursor model, if you want to use a model from Gemini, if you're on Open Router and want to use a Chinese model, you're able to use those. If you want to be, if you don't have that much money and you want to use, don't want to use so many tokens, you have a lot of different models that you can choose from when it comes to using cursor. If you're in the Claude world, then you're basically locked in, yeah, an integrated developer environment. Thank you for clearing up. It's, as I said, it's just for writing code. Thanks so much, Claudio. So as I said, with Cursor, you're not locked into when it comes to what type of model you're choosing from. You have many different models. You could also, if you have a really good computer, you could also use a local model and install that on your computer and then use Cursor where it's using the model that's on your computer. So it's a lot more flexible there. With Anthropic Claude or Claude Code, you're just locked into Anthropic. It's kind of like Apple. You're just locked into their model and what their model is capable of and what their application is capable of. So hopefully I answer your question regarding full stack developer. But there's also other developer IDEs. If there's also anti-gravity you can use. There's Cairo you can use. I think that's from Amazon. There's a whole bunch of IDEs. There are also open source IDEs that you can use. So it's up to you what it is that you want to use. All right, no problem. So the next step is that what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just talk to Claude and tell Claude that I want to start designing this app. I want to use also the Claude Design app also that's available. So I'm just going to talk to Claude and say, hey Claude, I would like to start designing this app and I want to use the Claude Design application to start designing everything out. Also want to come up with the application requirements documentation because I'm not really sure how this app should look and what steps or what buttons or what the user interface should look like. So just help me design out the requirement documentation and also show me what steps to take when it comes to using the Claude Design application as well. So here I'm just giving Claude the information, what it needs. Um, it's all, then I start and see what Claude basically says to me. So I just wait. Okay, there, Ricardo asks when Claude will scan your documents. Will they use only by your account model or app? Just syncing from data. So what you do is Claude has only access to the documents that you give it access to. So it's never going to go on your computer and scan all the files. So if you create that one folder, for example, this application that I'm creating right now, Claude will just go into that one folder and scan everything. So it doesn't scan everything on your computer. Uh, uh, will they use only by your account? Yeah, it's only based on the account you're logged in. So, and it just uses the model. So if you're using Sonnet or if you're using Opus or whichever model you're using, it will scan. So security wise, if you're using it for your company, make sure I'd say the best thing is that you have a Claude Enterprise account. If you're using privately, it's up to you what you want to do with your data. If you don't think that you don't trust these companies, at the end of the day, it's a company that's doing everything. You could have a local model on your computer and work with a local model, but then you need something more like Cursor or anything because with the Claude application, it's just it's just with the Anthropic models. So here, as I said, I told Claude that I like the design, and it's first it's saying, okay, you say Claude design application, what are you referring to? The design consultation skill, and or am I talking to does it design app? And what I tell people all the time is that whenever you're talking to AI, always tell AI to ask you critical questions because the more clarity it has, the better it can iterate for you to get to your goal. So always say, hey, if you don't understand, ask me 5 to 10 questions, and what Claude would automatically do is ask you questions. So I'm not talking about the design skill. So it's saying this is recommended. I'm not going to go the recommended way. I'm going to go with the web app desktop chat app and see what it says. Then just wait a little bit longer and see what the next step it does. So what I'm going to do is now is that I'm just going to jump in the Claude design. All right, so this is what the Claude design app looks like. It's just a separate application for now, but I think later on they'll be putting it they'll be putting it inside the Claude app, but for right now it's just a separate application. As you can see here, it looks exactly like Claude. It just says Claude Design Beta. And what Claude Design is good for, it's good for building out or prototyping anything that you want. You could do wireframing, you could do small animations. I wouldn't say the animations are that great. I would say it can do a slide deck for you if you want. But what you could also do instead of jumping in the design app, if you don't have time to do that, you could just build out a Claude artifact also as well. Um, what I'm going to write here now is I'm going to ask Claude for me to give me to describe the design that I could give into this design app. So I'm going to say here first. Hey Claude, can you make me the prompt that I can use for the design app to design this application? Just so I have the basic look and feel of the application, just please give me the prompt. So Claude already wrote the requirements documentation. I could just, when it's doing that, I could just switch back here quickly. Mhm. Here you go. So I told Claude to write the requirements MD file. So here it wrote the app requirements. So it says who's it for, and I recommend users before you build out an app, always do a requirements MD. This is a markdown file, and this helps the LLM to understand what it is that what you're doing. So wait, it's still recording. Sorry, my mistake. Sorry. All right, sorry, it was still recording. I'm just asking it to give me. It already did. I'm sorry. I guess I did it twice. Okay. So going back to the requirements MD. So this is the requirements that it will use regarding, okay, what my application will look like, what is ready, the requirements for the mic, if the mic is then denied. These are all the things that developers would actually have to think about when it comes to designing the app, okay? What the tone is going to be like, the visuals, and. But before I build this out, I'm just going to go back into this is the design that I want Claude to create me for the Read With Me app. So I'm just gonna look at see, okay, there's the different dark variants, existing style. It should be a warm storybook feel. Um, okay, 30-second listening, recognize the spoken correctly, and each screen should be two to three different visual directions. So I'm going to use this prompt, and I also recommend people when it comes to coming up with prompts, you could always talk with the LLM. It doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Claude, or XAI, or whichever LLM you like using. If you want to come up with a good prompt that the model really understand, explain first to the model what it is that you want to achieve, and then tell it to come up with a system prompt for you. And then the model will definitely be able to come up with a system prompt and help you to attain your goal a lot faster. So I'm going to paste this here, and I'll be using Claude Sonnet to design it. And then here, I'm just going to click go. And so what Claude is going to start doing, it's going to come up with a template of the application. And while it's doing that, I'm going to just say, tell Claude is like, okay, I'm using Claude Design to come up with a template of the application. I want you to basically use this template that Claude Design is using as the basis for moving forward with the app. You've already came up with the requirements. So the things that you go about and implement, you could start implementing right now. And once the design has been finalized, I will give it to you. So as you can see, I'm kind of like multitasking. One agent's doing one thing, the other agent's doing another, and that's something most people have to get used to. Also in the Claude app, you could launch different agents separately. So you could open one chat, talk to an agent. You could say, do the front end design, talk to the next agent, say, do the back end design, look at the system requirements, decide yourself which if there are dependencies, if there are dependencies, and start working. But once you start doing that, you realize again, you run into this token barrier. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that you'll if you don't have a good computer, your computer will start the ventilation will start going up, the fan will start spinning, and then you kind of like run into certain barriers. So you do need a computer with a good processor to start doing it. So as you can see, Claude is coming up with a design. It takes a little while, but I'll wait till it's done. Until then, if you guys have more questions, you could go ahead and ask. Let me just jump into the chat again. Okay, no more questions, and I'll continue. So this is what the app will look like. So I guess here Claude is saying, okay, from the request that I said, it will it's not done yet. It's doing a couple of fixes. It's going to be using the light and dark mode. Let's see if we have a light and dark mode. It's pretty simple. My son would basically read this text for 30 seconds. A little fox ran across a field. She saw a big red barn, and then it would start reading it, and Claude would basically do analysis. This little sleepy cat, and these were the different would be the basically text that my son would start reading, and then Claude would do an analysis in it. You have the ability also to edit it. You could make tweaks if you want to. You could change the light dark mode if you want to, but I'm not going to get into that. That's something that you can do at a different time if you want to. While I'm waiting for this to run, I'm looking at the Claude MD. Claude is now asking me a couple questions regarding how I should build out the scaffolding. Um, I'm just gonna switch here again so you guys could see. So as you can see, it's giving Claude MD says it's not pre-built. It's listening for highlighting the timer logic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to go with a recommended, so only non-core scaffolding. And then Claude will start building that out. Now I'm going to just go back to the design app. And while that is doing its thing, what you can do with the design app, you're able to click here up here, and then you're able to share. Sharing, you could either copy a link, you could look at the HTML. What's important is that you could also do what I tried out. It didn't really work that well because it took basically everything that's in the app and made it, it didn't really, I'd say it took everything that's in the app, and when I built the app, it would basically take the whole template and just rework everything. But we'll try it out today. So you have the more formats, and here you have the ability. So once a template is built, if you're someone that works with Figma, or if you work with Canva, or for example Miro, or any of these types of applications, you have the ability always to export it. But for right now, I'm not going to export everything. I'm going to send it to Claude Code. So here it's already saying, okay, this is the local thing that I'm going to be sending. I could also send it to web, but here we're working with the local. I could download it as a zip file. And now I said just here, copy prompt. Once the prompt is copied, I could go ahead and switch here and say, here is the application design that I will be working with when it comes to building out the app. Please help me to implement this correctly. The template is just a template. The design is just a design. You don't have to use the information in the application, for example, the text as the final text that we'll be using to help my son to read. So whatever it is, I just gave it then this is an MCP. So there's an MCP server that's connected to Claude Design. And this MCP server Claude Code already has access to. And as I said, MCP is just like basically it's a protocol that uses to connect different application. And so it's basically looking at that, sending that information over to Claude Code. And here in Claude Code, you're able to use the information what's on Claude Design right now on the in the Claude Code app. As you can see, it went ahead and created an app, so I could close this before I could open this. So this is right now what my app would look like. And it's still working, going on. And as you can see, it's the UI, and that's why I went ahead and did everything in Claude Design first. It's just basically going ahead and making a simple UI using HTML or something like that to make everything look okay. And I don't really like the design. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to stop Claude from working it, and I'm just going to send this over. And then so what it's going to do, it's going to go on to Claude Design. It's going to get that information, and hopefully what it will do is implement it into the browser. So this is going to probably take a long time. I can see we're running out of time then for today. If you guys have any more questions, you could go ahead and ask me a question, but this is basically how you'd go about when it comes to working with agents, um, making an application, designing something. You have many different interfaces which Claude Code or any LLM can interact with. You also have, for example, a browser tool in which they could interact with. You have many different things that the agent will do itself and go out and build for itself. So here it's going and asking me, okay, the classic centered storybook page, ready screen layout, direction implementation. I'm just going to go here, storybook page, see how long this is going to take to get built out. So while that's going, here, if you look at the interface, you have the different sections that you could look at. For example, if you want to look at all your files, you're able to, you don't have to go into the file manager. It's kind of like an IDE. You're able to look at all the different files that you have access to. Um, you have the ability to open up an artifact. What you can also do is for those people that don't know what a terminal is, this is what a terminal looks like. So you have the ability also to access a terminal. What I can also do here is I also could access Claude here, Claude in the terminal. And if you're working with Claude in the terminal, you basically say, I don't want to really need to get it. It doesn't matter. We just connect it to GitHub. And this is what Claude in the terminal looks like. So if I was really crazy and I wanted to burn a lot of tokens, I would be working with Claude here in the app. You could work, or if you're a terminal person that likes working with terminals, you could also use the desktop app, open up a terminal in there if you don't want to use your local terminal, and go ahead and also use Claude Code also in the terminal also as well. The website look and feel can be changed based on the preferences, right? Um, I'm not really sure what preferences you mean. What preferences exactly? Or our preferences. All right. So what I did is I went into, you could decide what it is you want to do regarding the website. For example, you have the ability when it comes to making the website, you could click anywhere. You could give Claude that information. As you can see, I could use my cursor. I could click here. I could click here and say, if you don't know the different elements that you're clicking on, you could tell Claude what exactly it should be changing and how it should change. And then it's kind of like UX design. You say, okay, you want the read with me to be changed, it will change it. You want this to be changed, it will change it. We'll change all the different things that you think should be changed. What you could also do is you could circle specific things, and you could say add to chat, and it will add the screen, this image to the chat. So it's basically you being a designer and saying, yeah, you could make the app to your specification as much as you want to. Hopefully, it answers your question. Yeah, it's based on the prompt that you give it, most definitely. But once your UI has been designed and created, you could go ahead and modify it as much as you wanted to. For example, let me just go back here and let me zoom out a little bit. Let me zoom in. Let me go to 90. Still not that much. For example, I'm just going to take a screenshot here and then I'm going to give Claude the screenshot. So, and I could say, so this is what the app looks like in the design app I created. And I don't think the colors are correct, what you created right now. Please just review the application that you've created on localhost and make sure it fits to the design that I've designed in the design app. So I also recommend people, whenever they're using these models, to use as much context as possible. And context means use screenshots. With these models, you can't really use videos or screen capture or anything, but when they have access to the screen, you could share your screen with them, and then the model will better understand what it is you're trying to do. So if you don't have a clear goal for the model, it's always going to be a little bit more frustrated regarding working with the model and interacting with the model. But if you use screenshots, you circle, you highlight, you do different things, then the model will understand a lot easier regarding how it is you want your things to look. So right now, as you can see, it went ahead and just changed everything. It did a dark light mode. Let me open everything up again. It's navigating the browser. It's making everything fit to to the criteria that I sent it. So anyway, as I said, time's up. Let me stop sharing. I thank you all for joining today. Hopefully now you know how you can work with Claude Code. And if you have any questions, you could go out and reach out to me on Meetup, and I could try to help you that way. Thank you guys again, and wish you guys a wonderful evening. Till then, bye.